Welcome back to the Good News. I'm your host, Elisabeth Gunawan. You've just heard Confirmation by Charlie Parker, performed by Robin Porter on the saxophone and Tom Riviere on the double bass. Thank you, gentlemen. As you all may remember, Robin used to play his tunes on the saxophone in the London House Quad. Back in those lovely last days when we could still speak to our friends from a 2 meter distance. But alas, those days will come again. I am speaking to you from my microphone in isolation in William Goodenough House, actually. Yes, about 5 days ago, I frog marched myself from London House over to Willie G. To say, as someone who has always been very, very independent, it's been a very humbling experience. Everyone at the college has been amazing in taking care of me, and I just feel really, really grateful and hashtag blessed. Well, we've got a show for you, so stay tuned. Our next guest is our very own registrar, Caroline Persaud. She's been at Goodenough College in this role for over 10 years. And before coming to Goodenough, Carolyn worked in many medical schools in London, where she spent most of her time ruining lives of students by not allowing them to study medicine. So, otherwise, things you may not know about Carolyn is that she describes herself as a true Londoner, as neither of her parents were British. Carolyn's mother was from Ireland and her father from Guyana. They met in London when there were signs in the doors saying no blacks, no Irish, and no dogs. The Caribbean and Irish communities are thrown together at this time. And it was certainly unusual growing up in an Indo-Caribbean, Irish and Hindu Catholic home. And one of the things she loves about London is how multicultural it is. She is also an avid golfer, but says she doesn't play well. And of course, we all know about her shoe obsession, which we will go into further. If you're thinking, wow, this is a great intro, that's because Carolyn wrote it herself. And let's see if we actually succeed in getting her, in roping her in to become our next co-host. So, Carolyn, I know that all of us are now living in a new reality where there's a global pandemic and we can't fly home for fear of infecting our elderly parents, and all your friends have already flown out of London, so you're lonely and bored, and there's still an essay to write, and the Prime Minister is in the ICU. Actually, he just got out. Unemployment is at an all-time high. But aside from that, how are you?
I'm good, yeah. I mean, it is a very weird time, isn't it? And who knew that we would be the ones that would live through such a time? But you know, it's funny how quickly it's become the new normality. I kind of feel things have settled down, and you know, okay, it may be a bit different to what we're used to, but we're all getting. I feel that I'm getting used to it. I know that other people will struggle more.
I think one thing that everyone just loves about you, like our community, Carolyn, is the way that you just manage to inject your sense of humor into everything. So in case you guys can see it, behind Carolyn, she started a new pub called the Pandemic Arms, established 2020. Perhaps you'd like to tell us a little more about it.
So I mean, I had this idea right at the beginning when you know, when we first started going into lockdown, you know, when we you know, when you're thinking about Skyping friends and Zooming in friends, and I belong to a theatre club as well, so we kind of get together every now and again, and we meet before we go to the theatre, the virtual theatre, and so we meet down the Pandemic Arms, and it's kind of a good way to just kind of, you know, WhatsApp your friends and sort of say, do you fancy a session down the Pandemic Arms later on at 7 o'clock? I'll send you a Zoom link. And, you know, it's one way to connect with people. But, you know, I just wanted to Arms, it says it's a non-public house established in 2020, and at the bottom it says it's pandemonium. It's not really pandemonium, but there you go.
So again, just in case we don't show the video with this, I'm just going to describe the scene at the Pandemic Arms at this non-public house. You know, we've got rows and rows of very classy bottles of spirits. There's like a proper logo for the Pandemic Arms. So perhaps a suggestion I have for you, Carolyn, if you put that logo somehow in the public domain, maybe we can open new branches of the Pandemic Arms. Even perhaps some of your friends could do it as well.
Absolutely, I'm very happy to franchise it. Franchise licenses won't be expensive.
So part of the reason we wanted to do this with you also is our goal, personally, Chiyo and I, we wanted to make you forget that the pandemic is the new reality, because you've obviously done so much for the community. So one of the first questions I wanted to ask you was actually, because you mentioned being part of the theater club, have you seen any good shows lately from the comfort of your own home?
I've done some things which I think are a bit I went to a comedy club, so every year I go to the Edinburgh Festival. They've just announced that the Edinburgh Festival's cancelled this year, unfortunately. That's the whole of August, and there's all sorts of festivals that go on, but my friends and I always go to the comedy festival. So we went and watched some comedy that was being broadcast live from a venue called The Stand in Edinburgh. To be honest, it didn't work. So it's kind of a big learning curve for everybody. It's that thing about comedy where it really does need an audience, and actually the performer needs somebody to kind of play off of. So actually, you know, between us, we figured out, okay, well, comedy's not really working. And the pre-recorded stuff is okay, but the live stuff, I think comedians are going to have to find another way of doing it. And I think, you know, the one-off, you know, the one-liners don't work. So they'll have to kind of, you know, the things that work better are really long stories, funny stories, but where you're not relying on the audience to kind of give you some sort of feedback before you move on. But to be honest, the thing that's worked best, I think, is film. So we every now and again rent a film from Curzon Home. So we saw Portrait of a Lady on Fire, which is a French film which won the Oscar this year. It was amazing. It was an absolutely fabulous film. So it kind of a period piece set in France. It was really, really good. What else have I seen? I logged in to see Jane Eyre at the National Theatre last week, because the National Theatre are filming, showing something every Thursday. And actually I'd seen that play live when it was on. So it was quite interesting to see it again, but from a, you know, from the cameraman's point of view rather than my point of view. But it was good. I really enjoyed it. So theatre and film are good. As I said, some of the other things, maybe not so much. I'll tell you what I did do on Saturday night, which I really enjoyed, which I know the members have done, which is it did a thing called Masayoke. So that's mass karaoke. There's a company in London that does Masayoke, and you can go, you know, they have tickets and they book it out, and it's good fun where you just screech your head off while there's a band on stage performing and the words are coming up above their heads. And even just doing it at home on your own, and they did it on Facebook Live on Saturday, and that was good fun.
That's great. Those are some really solid recommendations there. And that's also part of the reason we started this podcast, is we want to hear what people are doing in isolation to kind of keep their spirits up and to have fun. So perhaps, you know, just checking out a good movie, either renting it, or I think the BFI have even opened some parts of their archives. Theater companies like the National Theatre are releasing recordings of their performances, everything. It's funny because also even with this podcast, one of the things we said was that one of the last places on earth we can still gather together basically is our collective imagination. And in a way, that's the theater as well, isn't it?
Exactly. And you know what the thing is nice though is that when we schedule it, so because you kind of go, oh well, you know, I'll go and watch this or I'll go and watch that, but actually we have a scheduled time. So it's like we're gonna watch this film at 7 o'clock, you know, on whatever evening. So you're still putting it in your diary, and then we meet down the Pandemic Arms for, you know, 45 minutes or an hour first. Then we all leave the Pandemic Arms, watch the film or watch the play, and then go back online and have a little chat either about the film or the play or just a little catch up, and then go home. So that's what we would do on a normal theatre night out anyway. So that's nice because, as I say, it schedules it properly, and you actually make an effort to kind of get your stuff done for the day and sit down and kind of go, now I'm doing this. And I think it's really important to put, you know, our diaries, if you look at them, all look completely empty at the moment, you know. So I think it's really important to kind of, you know, even if it's a kind of made up diary, to schedule things, because otherwise we kind of can easily drift around aimlessly for a long time, especially like times like this long bank holiday weekend, you know, where in terms of work we've got 4 days off and, you know, not a lot to do. You could easily, you know, it's the less you've got to do, the less you do. And you actually really try and motivate yourself somehow, and actually putting in a false schedule is one way to do it.
Which leads me to my next two very important questions. First of all, do you change your shoes to go down to the Pandemic Arms? And secondly, does the outfit have to match the shoes, or do the shoes have to match the outfit?
Okay, well now those are important questions, and you know what, I've been only wearing trainers for the last 2 weeks. Trainers, no blow drying or straightening my hair, no makeup, a sweatshirt or a jumper and jeans, and I've worn nothing else in the last 2 weeks. So no, I'm not bothering to get dressed up to go down the Pandemic Arms. The other thing is people can only see my shoulders anyway, so that's fine. But if I was to get dressed up to go down the Pandemic Arms, it would start, putting together an outfit does start with the shoes first.
Nice. So when did this, what was the history of your rich shoe collection? You know, I did not realize actually you were our very own Imelda Marcos. I mean, just the shoes.
Yeah,
not the data.
Marcos. I mean, my shoes aren't probably as expensive as Imelda Marcos is, and I don't really know when it started. And the other thing is of course, you know, because you wear those, when you've got that many shoes, you wear them so little that you don't throw them away. So, you know, it's not like, I don't think I've ever worn a pair of shoes to, like, you know, to the point where it actually needs to go in the bin. I don't know, maybe it's kind of what I think, you know. I've been posting that thing on Facebook, this little poll where I've, you know, said how many days can I wear a different pair of shoes. And I think, you know, maybe it was when I kind of realized, you know, what attention, especially that first pair of shoes that I posted, they got a lot of attention because they've got this kind of floaty heel. They've got a very funny kind of cantilever thing going on. But to be honest, I do have to hold myself back and not keep buying shoes, because, like, you know, I keep discovering shoes. And actually what's been really good about that Facebook post is actually I've rediscovered shoes which I kind of thought, oh, those are really uncomfortable, or those are too high, and I put them on and I thought, no, actually they're all right and they're quite comfortable. I could get these out again. And I must do that. I must force myself to wear more of those shoes.
And you have to share these outfit photos. I think it's very important.
The never very interesting. The shoes are interesting, and the rest of it is just generally, if I'm at work, I'm wearing a dress, and if I'm not at work, then I'm wearing jeans.
Well, I guess you're right. The thing with shoes, right, is they have such character.
Yeah.
So you it's funny what you said. You choose the shoes, and then they kind of dictate the rest of it. And I say this as someone who's not even especially fashionable or anything.
Yeah, exactly. And I, you know, I am quite sensible in my shoes. I never buy shoes that I can't wear. So there have been shoes. There's one company that I like a lot called United Nude, and they're the ones who make the floaty cantilever shoes. They're called Eames, which is also a reference to Eames, who was a designer in the 1950s. He designed a very famous chair called the Eames chair, EAMZ. And yeah, I can't remember where I was going with that. Sorry, I started to say something and I went off on a little tangent and then forgot where I went to start it off. But yeah, I suppose, you know, the thing, so that was it. I was saying that I always wear shoes that I know that I can wear. So, okay, some of them are high and I couldn't wear them for the whole day. But I know that I could wear them on an evening out. Okay, they might come off in a taxi on the way home, but you know, I know that I'll stand it at least that long.
So I think now you also have plenty of time to give them their own names and voices and backstories. That's just
exactly. I've been thinking about that as I've been posting each one, you know, whether or not, and you know, it's funny, isn't it, how you kind of start remembering things, and I kind of think, oh, you know, as I put those shoes on and I take a photograph of them, I think, oh, when was the last time I wore those, or what do I normally wear those for? The work ones are a bit different because they are kind of worky and very general, you know, but the other ones, then I'll kind of think, oh yeah, when was the last time I wore that? You know what, the other thing that I've been doing is I've been walking around, and this is really embarrassing, and it does make me sound like a little bit of an alcoholic, is as I've been walking around every day when I've been doing my walk, I've been heading off the square in a different direction than just walking randomly. And as I pass pubs, I think, have I ever been in that? And I'm actually embarrassed to think about how many pubs that I pass that I have never been in, because the majority that I pass, I have been in at some point. So I'm kind of thinking that I might have been in at least 2/3 of the pubs within a 3-mile radius of this square.
Well, that being said, also you've been in Good Enough for 10 years. You know, 10 years,
right.
Plenty of time to be trying out the different pubs.
Yes, exactly. And actually, even before I worked at Good Enough, a long time ago, I worked on Queen Square, which is just down the road. And I worked on Queen Square for 9 years. I worked at the National Hospital for Neurology and Neurosurgery, and then I worked at the Institute of Neurology as well. So you know, this area of London is probably one of the ones that I know the best, apart from the area perhaps that I grew up in.
That's very cool. And actually, one of the questions I wanted to ask was also for you, having seen also and witnessed the way that the community has developed and changed over the 10 years, you know, and I'm sure actually for yourself, coming from such a deeply multicultural background, coming to a community that's as diverse as Good Enough College, I'm sure there's a deep connection there as well. I'm curious if you could tell us a little bit about how you've seen this place change, grow, and expand just in the past 10 years, and especially now entering a period that could fairly be called a crisis for everyone.
Yeah, so I think when I started, I was the first registrar, so that role didn't exist before I started. There was somebody in a role before, which was a combination of dean and registrar, but I think it was probably not well thought out. Before that, we used to have wardens of each house. So there used to be a warden of London House and a warden of Willie G, who kind of used to do the job that I did, but separately in each house. And there was kind of, you know, I'm sure they got on very well, but there was a kind of little mini war in that Willie G would do something in a certain way and London House would do it in a different way. And the rules were different for each house. And then a new director started in, I think, about 2006. And he kind of saw this and he thought, well, you know, the square should be one square. It's Good Enough College. It's not London House and William Goodenough House. And so he had this idea that he would build a structure very similar to what a university would be, you know, where you have a dean or a provost would be too much, but a dean and a registrar, one to look after the kind of social life and academic life of the college, and the other one to look after the kind of administrative life of the college, and actually just, you know, make the two houses kind of work together as one, so there's just one set of rules, etc. So when I came, to be honest, the last job that I did was at London University, a London medical school. I was also there for 10 years as well. So I'm one of those people that kind of stays in jobs for a long time. And I was head of student services at a medical school. So, you know, I did everything. And the admissions department came under my wing, the finance, student finance, as well as applying for all the government loans, the course timetabling, all sorts of things, welfare, all came under my wing, including running the halls of residence. And then I thought, well, I'm just going to do this job that's just running this halls of residence that's just for 700 people. I just thought, gosh, I don't know what I'm going to do all day, because it's only half the job. It's not even half the job that I'm doing at the moment. And I thought I was just going to come here and swan around Bloomsbury and have long lunches every day. I didn't actually realise that it could be quite as busy as it was. And I think the first shock was, well, and the other thing is that I made the decision, well, the job was to live in, and I'd never lived in a job. And I was anxious about that, because, you know, there is a question about how much you'll be able to separate your work-life balance, also how many times you'll be interrupted, also what the expectations are from you for, you know, working constantly. And, you know, so that was a bit of a worry. And when I arrived in my office at the college in July 2009, to be honest, there's not many people that will listen to this that were here at that time. I walked into this office with the crappiest computer on the desk that you have ever seen, and a threadbare chair, and not a single piece of paper or file or anything there. Nobody had even bothered to put a notebook and a pen on the table for me, and a 13-inch computer screen. And I just thought, no, there was no handover from anybody. And so actually what's happened is that, you know, for me, it's been about building the systems of the college up to where they are now. And to be honest, none of them existed before, you know, online application or any of those sorts of things. So that was one thing that I did. But I mean, you know, that's kind of boring, building systems. But you know, that's what my work is really, is to build systems and processes and business kind of models. But in terms of the college, I mean, when I arrived, it was a kind of very much here it is, you know, members can kind of make of it or not what they want, but there wasn't very much structure. You know, and I challenged that a little bit, and I am, you know, I think my colleagues might call me annoying quite a lot, actually. I was going to say a little bit, but actually probably call me annoying quite a lot, because I do call them out. So for instance, you know, if we say that our motto is to build this community based on tolerance and mutual understanding for the future leaders of the world, we can't just let you through the doors and expect some kind of osmosis to occur, and then you go out at the end. If we say that that is our motto, then actually we need to have some input into that. And so over time, the program has built up, and actually it's a lot more. There's a lot more formal elements to the program now than there used to be. You know, but I love Alan, because Alan, you know, will inject the pomp and circumstance into the program, you know, Founders Day or whatever else it might be, and the beating of the drums and the wearing of the robes. And, you know, none of that existed 3 years ago. He just made it up in his head. And, you know, everyone thinks that we've been doing it since 1930. No, we haven't. And it's so easy to build traditions here. But actually, you know, they give a structure and they give some continuity. So the only thing that I can really say from when I first arrived that has continued all the way through is the faculty dinners. So we're still doing those, and I have done those all the way along. But everything else, I would say, has changed and developed, and is, you know, continually developing. The other thing that I always think is a real shame in a community like this, where in any academic community, is always every year you start the academic year again. And so in terms of staff and, you know, what we're doing, that there should be development every single year. Something should change, you should try something new, should do something differently. maybe it won't work, but unless you try it, you won't know whether or not it works. So, you know, there should always be this constant enhancement. And that's what the great thing about an academic year gives you. So it gives you that chance to kind of go, and next year we'll do this.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for kind of sharing that really rich history. And I think I know I don't speak only for myself when I say that it's definitely recognized everything that you and the staff do to create such a kind of a rich life around the college, both before and after this pandemic has happened. And personally for me as well, as someone who is doing her master's at a conservatory with a very different kind of postgraduate life around it in a very small school, because I go to RADA, it's about 150 people there. And so it's been such a gift to really experience what it would kind of be like, a taste of what it would be like to be at a university in the UK with a sort of dormitory and all of these really rich traditions. And the faculty dinner was still one of the best nights I've had this year. And even my course leader who came with me loved it, and he fanboyed over so many people who were at the faculty dinner. So thank you for everything that you do.
Yeah, you're welcome. But the only thing that I feel slightly guilty about is the people in the law faculty never got their faculty dinner. It got cancelled. It literally got cancelled on that day, because that's when things started to close down a little bit, and we started to have so many people drop out that the faculty dinner was cancelled, I think just with 5 or 6 hours notice, unfortunately. So I do feel guilty that they didn't get their faculty dinner, and I hope that there'll still be enough of them here to recreate one at some point, you know, when we come out of lockdown. Or maybe, yes, you know, we need to think about it. Maybe next year, you know, they need to know the date now so they can all get invited back to next year's law faculty dinner or something.
And I guess, I mean, the reasoning was very much also coming from a place of, instead of having a faculty dinner where so few of the guests would attend, right, that the college wanted to make sure that they would be able to have a fuller experience. Yeah,
exactly. And the lawyers love it because, of course, we have a few people on the board that are High Court judges, and so they reach out to everybody in their address book. So I think possibly more than any of the other dinners, they really do get to kind of sit next to some people, some amazing people. And you know what lawyers are like, they'll all be kind of pulling on the other person's sleeve, sort of saying, you know, I'm looking for a pupillage, I'm looking for some work experience, is there any chance, you know, they'll work the room a little bit to further their career.
So before we end, I like to go through some rapid fire questions with our guests. So the idea is, you know, no need to justify it or defend it. Just the first answer off the top of your head. We'll start easy. Favorite color?
Orange.
Favorite pizza topping?
That's difficult. I think it would probably just be basil because I don't eat cheese. I'm vegan, so I don't eat cheese or those sorts of things, or meat.
I see. Red or white in terms of wine?
Red.
Favorite cocktail?
Oh, difficult. I'd have to, you know, I'd probably go to a porn star martini festival.
Puppies or kittens?
Oh, kittens, definitely, every time.
Jimmy Choo or Christian Louboutin?
Louboutin, I think.
Tiger King on Netflix or Tiger Lily?
Oh, Tiger King on Netflix. It was amazing.
Oh, poor Tiger Lily. Nobody's chosen her. Rat Race or Drag Race?
Oh, Drag Race, definitely. I've just finished watching this week's episode.
Oh, sounds like a new segment for our podcast. We'll be in talks after this, Carolyn.
Yeah.
Angela Merkel or Jacinda Ardern?
Oh, difficult one. You know what? I'm going to go with Angela Merkel, only because she's been in the role so much longer. And I think both of them are amazing.
I agree. Last but not least, hay fever or boy fever?
I'm not sure that I'm going to go with any of those. Hay fever sounds horrible, and you know, a woman of my age shouldn't be interested in boys.
I just want to say that at least there's Benadryl for hay fever.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
Well, thank you so much, Carolyn. This has been great.
You're welcome. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
You've heard the good news right here. I'm your host, Elisabeth Gunawan. Don't forget to also take part in the continued life of our college. Our own Dean, Alan McCormack, will be releasing the Good Enough Dispatches video, which will feature fellows and friends of the college. That's every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and will be coming to your own inbox. Moreover, our own chaplain, Jenny Hogan, will also be holding night prayers every Monday and Tuesday at 10 p.m. And also, her newsletters will be coming via email every Tuesday. Also, we've got different people from the college also holding a bunch of fun stuff for us to take part. You've got quarantine karaoke on Mondays at 7 p.m. and also some online yoga classes coming to a screen near you. And of course, always tune in to any updates in your inbox on this Facebook page for any other updates and fun stuff that's happening. All right, I'll see you next time. Take care of yourself and each other.